The Great Depression, which began close to the end of 1929, lasted till 1939 when World War II began. The Great Depression is a milestone in world history which was characterized by the economic decline all around the world. This was caused by a decline in demand and a fall in prices.
The decline in demand resulting in closing down of factories and decline in production, which in turn led to decline in the purchasing power of the people. This has resulted in the demand going down.
This cycle of events resulted in massive unemployment and the real incomes of the people as well as the government reduced across the world. This entire process was initially triggered by stock market collapse in the US.
Due to the Great Depression, nearly 25% of Americans and 31% of people around the world were unemployed. With the factories getting closed down, the trade declined, and as a result, the cities too declined. Up to 60% of the prices for agricultural produce came down as a result of this, and many of the farmers became paupers and stopped cultivation.
Students, this Great Depression was the longest and the most severe economic decline that was faced by the modern economy. The social consequences of the Great Depression rapidly increased poverty, desolation, homelessness, etc. The economists and the politicians debated on the causes of the decline of the economy and the ways to resolve it and prevent it from recurring. Various groups of people had different ways of dealing with it. Well, the Marxist economists argued that such crisis was an essential aspect of capitalism and suggested that it can be get over only by establishing socialism.
Then there were economists like J.M. Keynes who argued about the role of state in dealing with such situations. He pointed out that the state had a pivotal role in keeping the economy going, and if there is a decline, the state had to intervene.
J.M. Keynes pointed out that in case the state did not intervene effectively, it would lead to a situation like the Depression.
In addition, he also suggested that during such times when the demand goes down, the government should invest money and generate employment. As a result of this intervention by the state, the economy will revive. But the governments of the capitalist countries during 1920s and 30s were unwilling to intervene and improve the economy. This had worsened the situation further. Roosevelt, who then became the president of US in 1933, introduced the New Deal, or the 3 Rs.
Students, this package to some extent was successful in improving the economy and the way of life of people. According to the New Deal, relief, reform and recovery were the main areas of focus. The 3 Rs meant relief to the victims of the Depression, reform to the financial institutions and measures to ensure economic recovery by taking up large public works.
Roosevelt also introduced the highly needed Social Security system in the US. Under this, a permanent system of universal retirement pensions, unemployment insurance and welfare benefits for the handicapped and needy children in families without the father were provided.
Students, this has paved the way for the US welfare system.
On the other hand, Great Britain has already on the track of welfare measures. This means Great Britain had already taken steps for welfare even before Depression and when the war was still on.
The welfare measures of UK basically included unemployment insurance and old age pension schemes.
At the end of World War II, Britain also adopted large social security measures like sickness coverage, unemployment doles, health schemes, childcare, etc.
Students, the measures like these constituted the concept of welfare state.
In a welfare state, a state ensures a certain basic minimum dignified life for all its citizens. In addition, the state also took care of the most basic needs like food, housing, health, child and old age care and education.
In addition, in most cases, the state also took care of providing employment to the able citizens. Students, this was how the state tried its best to minimize the effects of market-based capitalism. Now, let us proceed to one of the most important parts, the rise of Nazism in Germany. Students, as we have seen earlier, Germany immensely struggled post-World War I with burden of paying war damages.
The situation was so worse that it began printing currency notes on a large scale, which resulted in an unimaginable level of inflation. It is said that people would carry a cart full of currency to buy a loaf of bread.
Students, why do you think such a situation arose?
Students, inflation is a situation when either there is a rise in prices or a fall in value of the money. It might result in situations where more money is needed to buy for the foods and services. As the country produced more and more currency, the prices rose and there was inflation. At the same time, US supported Germany by lending loans and rescheduling payment of war damages. By 1928, the economy of Germany stabilized, although it did not stay long because of the depression that began in USA in 1929. With the onset of depression, USA was deeply hit and hence it could not support Germany. The Great Depression affected Germany very significantly. Their industrial production in 1932 reduced to 40% of the 1929 level. The workers lost their jobs or were underpaid. The number of unemployed reached an unbeatable 6 million. In Germany, one could see men wearing placards that said, "Willing to do any work." The unemployed placards whiled away time or queued up at the local employment exchanges. The youngsters resorted to criminal activities and there was total despair everywhere.
The economic crisis increased deep anxieties and fears in people. The middle class, especially the salaried employees and pensioners, saw their savings decrease as the currency lost its value.
The small businessmen, the self-employed and retailers also suffered a lot as their business were ruined. The various sections of the society were filled with the idea of becoming paupers and there was an anxiety of being reduced to the ranks of working class or unemployed.
The people working in the organized sector were the only ones who could survive, but the unemployment reduced their power of bargaining. Students, the situations were worse. The big businesses too had to face the brunt.
The huge mass of peasantry was influenced by the sharp decline of agricultural prices. The women were filled with a lot of despair as they were unable to feed their children.
All these conditions resulted in acute political instability, which resulted in collapse of government after government. A stable rule could not be provided. During this crisis, the propaganda of the Nazi Party gave new hope to people for a better future.
Adolf Hitler was the unquestioned leader of the Nazi Party. In the year 1928, the Nazi Party got close to 2.6% votes in Reichstag, the German parliament. By the year 1932, the Nazi Party became the largest party with 37% votes. Hitler was a very powerful speaker and this is what attracted people. The promises of Adolf Hitler included building of a strong nation, undo the injustice done by the Treaty of Versailles, and restoring dignity of the German people. In addition, Hitler promised employment for the youth and to remove the foreign influences and resist all foreign conspiracies against Germany.
It was Hitler who came out with new style of politics. Hitler understood the importance of rituals and spectacle in mobilizing the masses.
In addition, the Nazis taught their children right from the beginning about the Nazi ideology. They taught them racial superiority of Germany and the greatness of Hitler and hatred for Jews and all other people. In fact, all the Nazi boys between the ages of 6 and 10 underwent preliminary training in Nazi ideology, and at the end they had to take an oath of loyalty to Hitler, which read as, "In the presence of this blood banner, which represents our Führer, I swear to devote all my energies and my strength to the savior of our country, Adolf Hitler. I am willing and ready to give up my life for him. So help me God." Huge rallies and public meetings were held by the Nazis to show their support for Hitler and instilled a kind of unity among the people. The red banners with the swastika, the Nazi salute, and the ritualized rounds of applause after the speeches were included as a part of the power.
Students, if we look at the way in which Hitler established his sway, Hitler mobilized his supporters by promising them that he would establish racial domination of Aryan Germans all over the world.
He also targeted minority communities like the Jews as the main cause of the issues. In addition, he termed communism and capitalism as the conspiracies of Jews and also promised to build a state in which communism and capitalism would be countered.
He also reached to the middle class who felt affected by capitalism and Great Depression. At the same time, he was against the working class movement that was led by the communists and the socialists.
Hitler came to power and immediately took measures to establish an undemocratic and autocratic rule. In addition, he also broke all the democratic institutions like parliament, which included arrests of all kinds of political opponents, especially communists, and put them in concentration camps. On March 3, 1933, the Popular Enabling Act was passed. According to this act, dictatorship was established in Germany. By this, Hitler was given all the powers to deviate from the parliament and rule by decree. This was how Hitler rose to power in Germany. In addition, all the political parties and the trade unions were banned, excluding the Nazi Party and its associates.
Not just the students, there was special surveillance and security forces were created to control and order the society according to the Nazis.
In addition to the existing police in green uniform and the SA or the stormtroopers, there were the Gestapo, the secret state police, the SS, who were the protection squads, criminal police and security service, the SD.
The extra constitutional powers that were given to the newly organized forces is what gave the Nazi state the reputation as the most feared criminal state. Students, why do you think it was so?
The people were detained in Gestapo torture chambers, gathered and sent to concentration camps. They were deported according to the will or arrested without any legal procedures. The police forces got powers to rule with full freedom.
The police made use of these powers to arrest and torture millions of political activists, trade unionists, and people belonging to minority communities, which resulted in a state with unimaginable horror and fear.
The responsibility of economic recovery was given to the economist Halmer Sachet by Hitler, while aiming at full production and full employment through a state-funded work creation program.
Students, if you remember, doesn't this seem similar to the Keynes view of state intervention in keeping the economy going? As a result of the state-funded work creation program, the German superhighways and the Volkswagen were produced. There was also an improvement in the standard of living of some sections of the people, although it led to inhuman conditions for the people who were disapproved by the racist regime.
In addition, the regime invested heavily in armament industries to create more employment opportunities. But the armament industry could run only when it went on war with the neighbors. In addition to these measures, Hitler also took up an aggressive foreign policy of recovering territories that were lost after World War I. By 1939, he attacked Poland, which, as we all know, resulted in World War II. As the World War II proceeded, the Nazi regime came up with a terrible program by which it began to build racial supremacy. This was done by mass killing of the minority communities in the country. The Nazis took up a mass killing of people by grassing them in a number of killing centers like Auschwitz. When the World War II was going on, Germany waged a genocidal war on the other hand. This resulted in mass murder of selected group of innocent civilians from the country of Europe. Among the people who were killed, there were 6 crore Jews, 20 lakh gypsies, 1 crore Polish civilians, 70,000 Germans who were considered mentally and physically disabled, 10,000 homosexuals, and also a number of political opponents of people of different faiths.
Students, this is how the world shaped itself after the two wars. Now, let us have a look at the timeline of events between 1918 and 1945.
On November 9, 1918, the proclamation of the Weimar Republic took place. On January 30, 1933, Hitler became the Vice-Chancellor of Germany. Within a span of 6 years, that is, on 1st September 1939, Germany invaded Poland. This marked the beginning of the Second World War. On June 22, 1941, Germany invaded USSR. The immediate next day, the mass murder of Jews began. On December 8, 1941, the United States joined Second World War. Then, on January 27, 1945, the Soviet troops liberated Auschwitz. This was followed by the victory of the Allies on May 8, 1945.
Students, from the line of events, we can see how Germany struggled and rose to power. Along with this, there were many equations between various nations in the world that kept changing.